Good morning, everyone. This is the Vermont House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. Again, it's Wednesday, January 15th, 2025 at 11:46 in the morning, at 10:46 in the morning. And we're back from the short break. And we're here to have an overview of our Attorney General's office and how we intersect with them. And we have, fortunately, have our Attorney General with us. Good morning.
Good morning. It's so nice to be here. I don't play favorites, but so I'll just say I think I've spent the most time in this committee and I'm always happy to be here. So it's great to see everybody. I want to introduce other folks who are with me today. Todd Delos is the Director of Legislation and Policy, a new position that I created and had Todd fill. I'm really excited to have him with us. He was actually in the office when I arrived 10 years ago and was one of my mentors. So he's been on a journey to come back to us, but we're always happy to have somebody come back, and especially Todd will be great. So you'll see him more than you're going to see me. And then we also have our intern, Maggie, whose last name I can't remember. It's Fulius. Maggie is a third-year law student at Vermont Law and Graduate School, and she actually interned with us in the fall as well. So we're really happy to have her with us part-time. And so I wanted to make those introductions. We probably don't have time for you all to introduce yourselves.
That's
Okay, good. Okay,
I was gonna do.
great. I love that.
So, John?
Jonathan Cooper of Pownell, the Bennington One district that also includes Reedsboro, Stanford, Searsburg, and Woodford.
Yes.
Emily Cares Duncan, Wilmington, Whitingham, Halifax.
Herb Olson, with Bristol, Lincoln, Moncton, and Starksville.
I'm Abby Duke, from the best part of Burlington. Pete Granning, Jericho and Underhill, and the vice chair of the committee.
Mike Markup from Coventry, represent Coventry, Irisburg, Newport Town, Troy J. Westfield, Lowell and Eaton, and chair of the committee.
Kirk White, I represent Bethel, Rochester, Stockbridge, and Hancock, and I'm the ranking.
Monique Priestley of Bradford, Fairleigh, West Fairleigh.
Michael Booton, Berry City.
Tommy Nicholas, Milton, and a little bit of Georgia.
Dave Bosch from Clarendon, representing Rutland 2, Wallingford, Clarendon, West Rutland, and the bulk of Rutland.
Okay.
We are, one of our most important people here is our committee staff person.
I'm Anna Gressel Block. I'm the committee assistant here. I do lots of things that I often cannot remember, but I do them.
Great to meet you. So what I would like to do today is just orient you about what the Attorney General's office does, kind of largely, but especially by way of this committee, how we appear when we come in on the topics that we tend to be here on, so that you have that. So
I apologize
Yeah.
at the time. I had to leave at 11:30 for a meeting, but vice chair will take over and we'll get caught up. Thank you.
So the Attorney General, in essence, is the lawyer to the state. We have 150 employees working in our office. We have 100 lawyers, and we do all kinds of things. We have a criminal division that prosecutes crimes, the most violent crimes, murder, sexual assault, child abuse of children. We have what's called the General Counsel and Administrative Law Division, which serves several state agencies like liquor and lottery, taxes, transportation, and we serve as their lawyers, particularly when they go to court. That's, you have to be an assistant attorney general to go to court. Only the attorney general can bring lawsuits on behalf of the state or settle lawsuits on behalf of the state. We also, it's in a similar kind of service, we have the Agency of Human Services Division. The Human Services Division provides lawyers to all the agencies in the Human Services Agency, corrections, mental health, et cetera. We also have the appellate unit. It's not a full division. It's part of the General Counsel Administrative Law Division, but they handle appellate cases. Here in Vermont, we have two layers of courts. We have like the trial courts in every county. Then we have the Vermont Supreme Court next door. We also do federal appeals, and that is the unit that handles that kind of stuff. And then we have the civil unit that defends the cases when the state is sued. And then we have the division where you will be seeing us, and that's the Environmental and Public Protection Division. The Environmental Division and Public Protection Division has environmental, which represents the state in cases involving, state lands, logging, all sorts of statutes relating to the environment. We work very closely with the Agency of Natural Resources. We can bring our own cases. A lot of our cases are also referrals from ANR. And we have the Civil Rights Unit, which handles discrimination in the employment context. Cases we mediate, sometimes we bring cases in the discrimination in the employment context. And last but not least would be the consumer unit. And that consumer issues are generally why we find ourselves in this committee. We have a consumer unit made of lawyers and paralegals who bring lawsuits. We also have the Consumer Assistance Program. Are you anyone familiar with any of the new folks familiar with CAP, the Consumer Assistance Program?
We just
Just heard about it.
Yeah, you just heard about it. Okay,
Touched on it.
good.
Leaving that up to you.
Yeah, so CAP is a partnership between our office and UVM. It's physically located at UVM. And UVM students take a class called Consumer Law in Action, and UVM students are the ones who help consumers with their complaints, with guidance from all the other staff who are there, who are full-time. It's been around for over 40 years. It's a wonderful partnership. Every state has something like it, but we're the ones who get to have it at UVM. They do outreach and education. They mediate consumer complaints. And we also do a lot of work related to scams. So we collect scam reports. They really are the consumer experts. It's quite something. They know a ton about consumer law, debt collection law, and all the rest of it. There we have a small business advocate. The small business advocate, her name is Emily McDonald. She's awesome. And she helps small businesses when they are in the role of the consumer. And what I mean by that is sometimes, we think of the consumer business relationship as being consumer and business, but sometimes it's the business that itself can be a consumer. Not when they're buying things for resale, but say they are buying, cleaning products to clean their shop, or toilet paper for the bathroom. They are a consumer. And in Vermont, very rarely is a state like this, but in Vermont, businesses are also consumers. This is something that the courts clarified many years ago, and then you all codified. So businesses are also consumers. If you have small businesses in your jurisdictions, I just wanted to flag that for you because we have a small business advocate there to support them. And also just know that if there's a consumer issue, they find themselves in that role. We've helped people who, one time I remember we got a call from someone who ordered a commercial oven, and it came like totally not the way that they ordered it. And we got involved to help them because those are very, very expensive. We also have helped someone who had Bethel. I was in Randolph, a mobile dental clinic that goes to the school to check kids' teeth. Very cool program, by the way, because we toured it. And they ordered a new trailer where the clinic was. It was like inside a trailer, and it didn't come as anticipated, and we got involved to help them. So anyway, want to flag that for you. And then we also have a home improvement specialist. That is a newer position created by the legislature a couple of years ago, doing incredible work. Ever since I've been working in the Attorney General's office, in the top 3 complaints most common complaints we receive, home improvement issues are always in the top 3. And I think part of the reason why is because the home improvement is often very expensive. So the consumer isn't just going to say, nah, whatever, I lost $25, I'll let it go. It's, thousands of dollars, and they're going to do something, and they're going to contact our office. The person in that role is named Gabriel Taylor Marsh. He used to be a contractor, and he also used to be a paralegal. So he's been there for a year and a half. He has recouped $800,000 for consumers all told, which is incredible. Sometimes he's also helping the contractor and not the consumer. He's kind of educating and going back and forth, and he's just been really wonderful. But we also have a lot of general practice, not a lot. We have a couple more people who work there, and they are general practitioners. And we are serving thousands of Vermonters every year in the work that we do. And we also receive lots of scam reports. The scam reports are very helpful because scams, you've probably noticed this anyway, but scams follow the trend of what's effective. So remember like 10 or 15 years ago, it was the IRS scam, and the hot scam was the IRS scam. Then we all got the IRS scam and we were like, who do you think you're fooling? No one's falling for this anymore. And now we never get reports of the IRS scam because it was no longer effective. And so new scams come up that are effective. And as technology changes, the tech support scam is always a hot scam these days because they've figured out a way to use technology to scam us out of our money using the like, oh, you have a virus on your computer. Let me access your computer remotely and I'll fix that for you. But really, they're stealing your money out of your bank account. And the other thing that we do critically is we have a scam alert system, and we will alert Vermonters of a hot scam. So if we know, oh, we got 10 calls about this one scam, it doesn't even really have to be 10. You know, if in a short amount of time, we get like 5 calls. It's like, oh, some outfit somewhere overseas is making a push on this particular scam. Let's alert Vermonters. Sometimes we'll alert the people affected, like a popular one that will come up is a justice of the peace scam or a pastor scam. So we'll reach out to people in the community. If we can find a listserv or someone to say, can you let folks know to be on the lookout for the scam? We're getting reports of the scam. So it's a very, very cool, office. The consumer unit I mentioned has lawyers, it has paralegals and investigators. And the work that they do is very largely based on the Consumer Protection Act. They also do antitrust, monopoly work, and some debt collection fair practices. But generally what they're doing is the Consumer Protection Act. The Consumer Protection Act was passed by this legislature, I think in 1968, been around a long time, longer than I've been around. And it is used all the time for things you might not realize. The Consumer Protection Act is designed to protect consumers from being lied to in the marketplace. But when consumers trust the marketplace, they're going to buy things. So in protecting consumers, we're also protecting the marketplace itself and the integrity of the marketplace. This is something I've become, that concept is something I've become really fascinated with the rise of artificial intelligence, because I'm truly afraid that if consumers go online and they don't feel a sense of trust with the items that are available for purchase, they're not going to want to buy things online. And it will have a chilling effect on the buying and selling of things online, which is, I mean, for many of us in rural communities, I live in Williston, which is like a shopping place, and I even purchase a lot of things online. So I am, always aware of that. The Consumer Protection Act essentially says you can't misrepresent in the marketplace. It's that simple. We're all consumers, so we kind of know what that looks like. We've all experienced the like, this is too good to be true kind of phenomenon. Some of the cases that have used the Consumer Protection Act to affect, results and hold people accountable. The big tobacco case from the 1990s, which was a massive national settlement. Vermont receives over $20 million every single year as a result of that case. That was a consumer protection case. We sued the fossil fuel companies a few years ago for greenwashing and, suppressing information about the truth of the impact their products were having on the environment. And we use the Consumer Protection Act, like Vermonters take very seriously our love of the outdoors, and we make purchases based on that. And so for that misinformation and suppression of information to be happening while we were making our purchases, you can't do that under the Consumer Protection Act. We sued social media companies under the Consumer Protection Act as well for knowing that their products are harmful and suppressing that information and not doing anything about it. One interesting question that you might have about that is normally when you're a consumer, you're purchasing things with money. And I don't pay anything to go on Instagram or Facebook, right? I don't pay cash. Instead, I pay with my data. They use my data to sell ads to people who like pink sweaters and blue suits, and they want me to buy their pink sweaters. And that's how they're making their money, but they're using my data. I'm giving them my data and saying, okay, fine, that's fair trade. So we sued on that basis as well. I could go on and on. The consumer unit is where I landed when I arrived in 2014 at the Attorney General's office. And I've been there ever since, except for when I quit my job to run for office. That was the only time I left, but I've been there ever since. I also grew up working in my father's grocery store in Londonderry, Clark's Market. And so I literally grew up in the marketplace, my joke, but it's true. I was there from the time I was 10 years old working. And so these issues are, they're near and dear to my heart. And I also truly believe in businesses in particular, being the backbone of our economy and certainly the backbone of our like small towns. And having grown up in as the many generations of grocers in my family, I just feel really strongly about it and always take an interest in these issues. So that is a overview of the office. I hope that I didn't miss anything. One thing that I didn't mention, and I should, you all have your own lawyers, you've ledge counsel, and for those of you who've been on other committees, you know how that goes. For the new folks, it might feel like, wait, don't we have our own lawyers, ledge counsel? You do. We work really closely with ledge counsel and have a great deal of respect for them. We come in generally when we have subject matter expertise to offer. We also, by statute, I have to give you advice, and I love doing it. I love coming over here. So that's another reason why you'll see me here. And because I'm a statewide elected official, I take positions that try to represent what I think Vermonters want of me and to try to advocate and use the bully pulpit. And so sometimes you'll see me take positions, maybe not necessarily in this committee, since I have such a clean and easy connection to this committee, but sometimes you'll see me taking positions in the legislature that are slightly or not core to what we're always doing. One of those is we defend the state when the state is sued. And so if there's ever a law, a bill that you're working on, and there's a question of its constitutionality and whether we would survive a lawsuit, that would be another reason why I would take a position, is to reassure you that it is constitutional, or say maybe we should go back to the drawing board on this one. So that's like a basic overview. I'm happy to answer any questions or go into a little bit more details. And I also would love to talk about a couple of our priority positions.
I just, you had mentioned that you have some sort of a list of frauds.
Yes.
What's involved in getting that? How is that disseminated to the public?
We just released yesterday, actually, our top 10 scams of 2024. So we have a press release. I think Todd has, okay. Yeah, we'll make sure that you all get a copy, but here's the press release if you guys want to look at it. The top 10 scams, there weren't really a lot of surprises. They looked a lot like last year's. The tech support scam is very effective. Fake package scam is always, that's the one that really makes me nervous. When you get a text and it's like, your package is delayed. And so I always say, like, when you get into your emotions, that's the most effective way to scam someone, is to get them in their emotions. So that could be like, you're excited, like, you sent me a package, and you click on it, and then it's like, oh my God. Or like, I didn't order a package, and now you're concerned and worried about something. And so when you're in your emotions, that's like step one for how to scam somebody effectively. So
Is there like a list that we can get on to get these?
yeah, there's, you can get on our press list, but we
Okay.
also have a scam alert system, and
Okay.
we can send information if folks want to get on that.
I would like to.
Okay. Yeah, we're about to issue one, actually. Generally what we do is we don't want to like inundate everybody with all the scams, but we it's like a vibe test. We're like, seems like we've got enough, like maybe we should put that out. The other thing that I started doing is I realized, like, wait a minute, I should record myself, like video myself doing the scam report. I issue the scam alert in my voice. So it used to be, before AI, that would be like, oh, I trust this. This is the Attorney General's voice. But now I record myself like a video, and I put it on our social media channels as well. So if you follow our Attorney General account, you'll also see those there. We always try to post them so that we can try to get the word out about whatever scam is happening. And we also do a lot of scam education out in the community. Sometimes I'm involved. Sometimes it's just the folks at the Consumer Assistance Program. The director of the Consumer Assistance Program is named Chris Curtis. He's wonderful. He's been in this committee a ton. He's worked in our office for many years, and he is just really knowledgeable. Everyone at CAP is really impressive. They're just great.
Talk a little bit about our consumer protection law and how it's a little different from other jurisdictions, because we also consider businesses as person.
Yeah. We talked about that a little. It is different. Like I think I've heard of maybe one jurisdiction that has something similar, but we might be the only ones. But yeah, small businesses are considered consumers. So the Consumer Protection Act, I mean, not small businesses, all businesses. I think of the small businesses because that's who's normally in Vermont, but all businesses are considered consumers. And for those of you who are very curious, there's a famous case called Ratty, R-A-T-H-E, where the court decided this is the way that it is, like businesses are considered consumers. And then after that case, the legislature codified that. So it's very, very plain right there. Businesses are consumers in Vermont. So I'd love to just say a little bit about some of our priorities in the consumer space. The first, which we've been working on in this committee for many years, is data privacy. One of the roles that we play is we receive all of the notifications for data breach notification. You all passed a law that required businesses who suffered a data breach and under certain circumstances to make a report to the Attorney General's office. We receive more than one a day. It's extremely common from all kinds of, from not very sophisticated to very sophisticated. And it's made us very aware of data, the importance of data, and also how data can be misused to impact consumers. That's one area. We also just have expertise in what's happening, the online marketplace, which is really fueled by our data. And it has created a lot of interest and which developed into knowledge over the years. And we've taken an interest in this for many years. And traditionally, attorneys general do take an interest in this, and we certainly are no exception. For years, we were asking for a comprehensive data privacy bill, or at least one that dealt with biometric data about yourself you can't change, like your fingerprints, your eyes, your face, your DNA. And that was passed last year out of this committee. We worked really hard. It was unanimous. It was awesome. It passed the legislature. The governor vetoed it, came back, and the Senate failed to override that veto. But we are really pleased to be continuing to work on that and working with the governor's office on a good bill that we can all agree to. We've always been talking with businesses about it as well, and continue to do that so that they understand what's in the bill. I think last time there was some confusion about what the bill ended up being very long. And I think there was some confusion about what was in the bill. And so we're going to be a partner to you in that work, having just like we live it every day. We know how important it is to protect consumers and also to help, I think, sort of set a best practices, because we have so many small businesses in Vermont and we want to make sure that they're protected. And to the extent that we can also just say, you do collect data, here's what that should look like. Here's how you should treat that data. So that's going to be a priority. I want to flag a couple of positions that we are focused on. The first is, I mentioned Gabriel Taylor Marsh. That was created by the legislature 2 years ago as part of the home improvement registration law that you all passed. The position was funded for 2 years. It has far exceeded my expectations. Gabriel has recovered over, like I said, $800,000 since he started a year and a half ago. It is always in the top 3, if not number 1 for complaints. That issue. And so to have someone who's handling those issues for consumers, educating consumers and businesses, helping the contractors themselves, being a liaison with the Secretary of State's office and others who play a role in that work is really critical. So we'll be asking to make that a permanent position at the Consumer Assistance Program. Second position is an Assistant Attorney General position in our office to handle cases involving, for lack of a better term, big technology. We have a lot of opportunities nationally to join other attorneys general who are doing lawsuits against companies who are bad actors in the technology space and other spaces. But more capacity would enable us to do more and better work. It would also enable us to take lead instead of just joining. We would be able to take lead. When you take lead, in a lawsuit, when there's a multi-state action with other attorneys general, you tend to get a little bit more money at the end of the day. And an example of that is the tobacco case. The former attorneys general, Chief Justice Amestoy, who went on to the court, and Bill Sorrell took lead on tobacco, and we ended up getting an additional $10 million every year for 10 years. So roughly $100 million extra for taking lead. A more recent example was in the data breach space, in the data privacy space. We settled with a company called Blackbaud, who had pretty egregious practices. They fixed them, which is great. And we settled and we got so much more money. It was just such an example to me because it was our idea, our case. Someone in our office who actually taught a privacy class at UVM came up with the notion and paired up with another counterpart in another state to sort of lead. And at the end of the day, when we did the settlement, it took many years, but I was so like struck by the amount of the settlement that we got. As an example, I think next door, New Hampshire got roughly like $100,000 in the settlement, and we got $3 million. If we had an assistant attorney general who could focus more on that, I'm thinking about artificial intelligence. So we have an entirely new technology on the horizon. They've already had lawsuits and made missteps, I would say. So it would be really helpful to have another person who would be knowledgeable in that subject matter and be able to move ahead if there were any bad actors who violated the Consumer Protection Act. So those are the kind of main focuses, I would say, of our office's work in the legislature this year in terms of asks and that intersect with the work that you all will be doing.
How big is big tech?
Oh.
When does it begin being big?
I don't know that I would define that. I mean, I would say big tech are the companies that we all have heard of. So, Google is another settlement we recently had for several millions of dollars a couple years ago. The social media cases that we brought are big tech. I don't know that I have it.
I was thinking about any potential partnerships between businesses within our states. And there's already lots of relationships between those massive entities and our entities that would be at a much smaller scale. Were those implications that came up last year when I wasn't here? So I was just curious how the data privacy conversations were going. Was it something that had a trickle-down effect, or was that a concern, or is that something that...
Yeah, I think there was. It was awkward because, for starters, the Small Business Administration defines a small business as a business with fewer than 500 employees. So that leaves like 35 businesses or something in Vermont, and it's like the University of Vermont, like these major, So so many of us are small businesses here in Vermont, but the smallest businesses were carved out of that. And then at the end of the day, a lot of the controversy, I would say, around the bill involved the private right of action, which is extended to in all consumer protection cases. And it only applied in the end of the day, the bill, it only applied to sensitive information like biometric data. So a lot of businesses would not have had that apply to them because they're, for example, if I'm buying through a mail order catalog, I'm not giving them my eye scan or my DNA, I just want to get my butter crunch or whatever. So they would not be, this wouldn't apply to them. But I should say, we were in conversation with big tech, small tech, all the tech, and others, because it does impact a lot of people. And it's kind of, in a way, it's nifty that we get to be alive doing our work, and it's a dynamic time. I'm sure many of you are like me, where you remember before the days before the internet and how boring and it was. And we're adjusting in our culture to like, what's the sweet spot. When it comes to privacy, I have taken the view as many generations Vermonter, that Vermonters really value their privacy. It's kind of part of our ethos, sort of like a you do you, good fences make good neighbors, to quote Robert Frost. And I have believed that that's what Vermonters really want. And I have continued to believe that if they realized how much they were being surveilled by tech, they would be very troubled. And I sometimes myself am troubled when I realize that one time that I was having, I don't have my Siri on, and she doesn't listen to me because I've turned all that off. But my friend and I were having burgers, and I was telling her that I was in the search for a purse, and I wanted it to be black, and I wanted it to fold over, and I wanted there to be a zipper, and I wanted it to be leather. And then like 2 hours later, she texted me and she was like, oh my God. And she had screenshotted a purse that was that exact description that was on her Facebook feed. And long story short, I now own that purse. So that joke's on me, I guess. So we were both disturbed, but then I was just like, I don't get that purse. I just had it earlier. I don't have it with me, but anyway, so that is the kind of rub there. You know, and I like the acknowledgement of all the conveniences and you know, it is there, but I still didn't turn on my Siri. So I will say I have the purse, but I wasn't tempted to go let my privacy be you know, further violated. So there you have it.
Other questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, good to have you here. I think you touched on artificial intelligence maybe in your remarks, and I'm wondering how you view, I guess, the current legal framework around relationships between promoters and Vermont consumers and artificial intelligence. And do you have any observations on that framework as it currently exists?
I mean, like all of us, I'm learning. I'm very fortunate. I was invited to participate in the judiciary's working group on artificial intelligence. So I've actually learned a lot more than I knew before last session, because it started last year. And it's been really wonderful education. I would say that, you know, we have laws already in place that regardless of the fact that AI is new, would still apply. The Consumer Protection Act is one of them. Copyright is another one, and there have been lawsuits filed relating to copyright. So we do have laws in place around that. I think artificial intelligence is moving quickly. One of the things that continues to disturb me about AI and frankly data privacy is I don't like this idea that our data doesn't belong to us. In my mind, it's mine. Like the analogy that I always use, which is not even very good, and I should come up with a better one, but if someone planted an acre of carrots in your front yard and then sold them at the farmer's market, wouldn't you expect to have a conversation about, I'd like a cut of your proceeds, or no, please, I'm donating the land to you because I want it to be put to, you would have that relationship, that conversation. Most consumers have no idea what they're trading. They have no idea. And I mean, we've all had that experience I did with the black purse where it's disturbing. It's just like, how did they know about this? And that's what we're doing. We are making those exchanges. And I think that a lot of it is being done outside of view for whatever reason, whether we're too busy, we don't know, or it's on purpose and they're trying not to tell us. I don't think AI asked anyone's permission before they used all of their copyrighted books. So, you know, that's something, and we had Vermonters who had their works in ChatGPT. And I never like that, because I think that we get to control what's ours and our data is ours. So that's kind of a philosophy that I have. But yeah, more to come on AI. It is a really critical, like this moment is very critical because things are moving fast. And I have the impression that they're using the ask forgiveness, not permission model. The way that we have commonly seen AI in our work is through scams. People are using AI to scam. For example, there was a scam that went around Taylor Swift. A deep fake was made of Taylor Swift. Deep fake is when technology is used to take someone's voice, video, or photo and make it look like they're doing something they're not really doing. So a deep fake was made of her saying like, oh, you can enter this contest to win this Le Creuset cookware, and you only have to pay X amount of dollars. And people thought it was real and were giving their money. And that's a scam. And, you know, it was her face. So an AI was used to perpetrate that scam. And I mean, it used to be you had to be extremely sophisticated to pull off something like that. And now it probably can be done in like 10 minutes. And that is very concerning. So I also just, I truly am worried about what they call AI slop. Like there's just AI garbage on the internet. And so you go to buy something or Google something and you're like, what is this? And you're not getting what you want. And as a person who really holds in high regard the marketplace, I always want to keep the integrity of the marketplace. And it does concern me. But yeah, something that we're all going to be learning more about and educating ourselves about, and especially you all, so that you can lead and affect change that needs to be made. So yeah, if you need someone to tell you about AI, there is a Vermonter on our committee who is a law professor and engineer and AI specialist, and he is amazing. He's from Rutland. I'm looking at my Rutland folk. Yeah, I got the thumbs up. And he teaches, I think he teaches at Northeastern Law. He's wonderful. His name is David Stein, and I'm happy to put you in touch with him if you guys ever need like a primer on AI. He's so great.
That committee again, the name of the committee?
It's not our, the Supreme Court put together a judiciary committee. And one of the justices in the Supreme Court is from Rutland. So of course, the Vermont way, you know people. So he knew Professor Stein and got him involved. He's so great. So if you guys ever need that, I'm happy to make that connection.
Any other questions?
The compensation we get back when we take on Google and get that much, and you cited several different things. How much of that is restitution to victims versus assigned to the general fund, or assigned to the general fund with earmarks for specific purposes, or?
It almost always is general fund. The tobacco money has a tobacco fund. Almost all of these settlements go to the general fund. When it comes to restitution, occasionally we'll have that mechanism. But those individuals have their own lawsuit that they can bring for their restitution. It can be very complicated. And let me give you an example. A few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, 4 years ago, we settled with Dollar General because their prices that they advertised did not match the price at the checkout. And now how are we going to find everybody who bought a gallon of milk? So we had a mechanism where part of the settlement was they donated $100,000 to the Vermont Food Bank. And that was kind of this way of, it's a connection. It's not necessarily getting that person, but sometimes that's just the way that it works. But great, that's a really good question.
I'm not seeing any other hands. So a couple of years ago, maybe last year, we were talking in one of the bills, I think it was an amendment to a bill about having, I believe it was your office, look at the online vape selling and doing something. Can you talk about that and what that's like? And
We have an online sales ban of tobacco products, and several years ago, vaping products were added. I should also note that I actually co-chair the National Association of Assistant Attorney General Tobacco Committee with Louisiana. When I started at the Attorney General's office in 2014, I did tobacco work. So it's very near and dear to my heart. And of course, working in a grocery store, we sold a lot of tobacco, and it was always near the front. They paid extra to have the like plum space. And I was just testifying in Senate Economic Development that I remember, because I was working in the store July 1st, 1994, 1995, whenever they banned, you all banned smoking in public places. And it was just like, yeah, no smoking in the grocery store. But yeah, so we work with the investigators who are at the Department of Liquor and Lottery, and they perform investigations and then bring the sort of facts to the lawyers in our office, and we will bring a case if there is a violation of the online sales ban. We also obviously bring a case if a local retailer has the same problem of violating that. But the online sales ban is your specific question. That is ongoing. Obviously, it can be a little challenging, to find something online that's a violation, but we continue to do that work. In fact, we just settled something with Amazon. Amazon did not have the protections in place to prevent third-party sellers from selling vaping products online. But vaping has been one of my priorities for the past year and going forward. I've been lucky enough to be invited to youth vaping summits. And there's a lot I've been actually really fascinated by this. It's almost like they're 12, but they're influencers, like anti-vaping influencers. And it's been really cool to see, they have so much knowledge, and it's really impressive. And I just think it's obviously we all lived through a time when everyone was smoking and smoking was cool. And it's so alarming to see a return to tobacco products being popular with youth. So we continue to do that work because the vaping companies were not part of the master settlement agreement with the tobacco companies in the 90s. They don't have the same restrictions. They haven't agreed to the same restrictions that those tobacco companies have. So it's a real different landscape. But that is absolutely a priority for me.
So it is, I guess the question is, do you need additional staff or do you have the staff to actually,
We have,
or is there a way for schools, for example, to give you information on the websites that are?
yes, with that's so interesting you bring that up. It was autumn, maybe October, November, I went to the youth vaping summit in Lake Fairleigh, and that we brought that up because someone was telling me about a product on that TikTok was they have a TikTok shop. I didn't know that. They have a TikTok shop, and they were continuing to push a product that you could buy online, and you could buy it in Vermont. And tips like that are very, very helpful. So it's funny you bring that up because we were talking about like how's the best way of doing that. So that is something that we were looking into, making it easier, or even like promoting to schools and parents and children, like please make a report so that we can look into it. This is a violation and it's not appropriate and obviously illegal for them to be selling into Vermont.
Have you seen a rise in the use of the tobacco pouches, like Zyn pouches?
Yeah,
And also the incentivizing that they do in order to keep people purchasing? Is there anything?
I can't say I've seen it in my office. I know that there is a rise in those kinds of products.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Not seeing any other questions. Is Todd going to speak to us too, or is this?
No, but Todd will be our point person and general point of contact. So if you need me, you can go through Todd. Todd will be in the building probably a lot more than I will be. I'm so happy. I don't think I mentioned this, but Todd is like doing the job that I did when I was chief of staff. So I'm really excited to have someone who's going to be able to spend more time in the building to support you all and be a point of contact.
Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your time and we appreciate the collaboration with your office as well.
Yes, we appreciate you all. And if you have any follow-up questions, or if anyone ever has any concerns that you think the Consumer Assistance Program can help with, just let us know, or you can call them at 1-800-649-2424.
I've actually, obviously annual last year, so I just hand them out.
Is this what, this is what you just linked for us to?
That and. Scams. Yeah.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Law enforcement impersonation. That is remarkable.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
that's
number
a popular one.
very surprising.
We're still live. You're scared.
Right.
We're still live.
So that's it for this morning. So I'm banking a half an hour. So back here at 1 o'clock. And we'll continue our discussion. Please, a representative from Taiwan that's here visiting today. She'll come in at 1, just to introduce her to the committee, so you know. We will have a conversation later on in the session, probably towards the end of February or March, when the Director General from the office in Boston, and we generally ask him to come in order, come in and have a conversation with us about our economic ties with Taiwan, cultural ties. So they'll be coming. So with that.